The ground trembles beneath her feet as Captain Arya Rourke watches the massive shadow of the alien beast approach. Its skin gleams like molten steel, its jagged claws scraping the earth. A war cry echoes across the battlefield, but Rourke doesn't flinch. Her eyes narrow with focus as she grips her weapon tighter. "This is it," she whispers, steeling herself. "Time to show them why humanity doesn't need armor." The alien forces had ravaged Earth for months. Cities reduced to rubble, millions of lives lost. The alien general, commanding from the stars, had underestimated humanity's will to survive. He thought we were fragile, too soft to endure the relentless onslaught. He was wrong. Arya stood at the edge of the battlefield, surrounded by her team, humanity's last line of defense. The rest of the world had fallen. The survivors were scattered, broken, but not without hope, not without a fight. The alien beast before them had already destroyed most of their forces, but Arya wasn't about to let that be the end of humanity. She stepped forward, her soldiers following suit, knowing this could be their last stand. Humans don't have natural armor, but what we have, what we've always had, is something far more powerful. The ability to adapt, to survive against all odds. It's not about the skin we wear or the gear we carry, it's about what lies beneath. With a deafening roar, the alien creature charges, its massive legs thundering against the cracked earth. Its glowing eyes lock onto Arya as it closes in, every step shaking the ground beneath them. Arya doesn't hesitate. She pulls her rifle to her shoulder, aiming with perfect precision. In that split second, she sees her team scatter, taking positions in the wreckage, ready to fight to the death. The alien beast lunges, a blur of claws and teeth. But Arya stands firm, waiting. Her heart races, but her focus remains sharp. As the beast swings its claw toward her, she sidesteps with agility that defies its massive size. Time seems to slow as Arya rolls beneath the creature's outstretched limb, coming up on the other side. With a quick, practiced motion, she fires. A single, well-placed shot. The creature howls, its body jerking violently as the bullet strikes. Its weak point. Arya doesn't wait for the creature to recover. She fires again and again until the beast finally collapses with a thunderous crash. It wasn't armor. It wasn't brute strength. It was the human spirit, the ability to adapt, to think, and to strike at the heart of any challenge. Humanity's greatest weapon was not its technology, nor its firepower, but its will to survive. The battlefield falls silent, save for the distant sound of wreckage crumbling and fires crackling. Arya stands tall, covered in dust and blood, but she's not alone. Her team, battered but alive, slowly emerges from their cover. They've done it. They've killed the unkillable. The alien general had sent his fiercest weapon to Earth, but it wasn't enough. Humanity's resilience had proven stronger. One of Arya's squad mates, Sergeant Carter, approaches, a grim smile on his face. "I didn't think we'd make it out of that one," he says, panting. Arya wipes her brow, her eyes scanning the horizon. "Neither did I. But we're still here." She looks down at the alien corpse, her expression hardening. "We're not just surviving, we're winning." But even as she speaks, the reality of the situation sinks in. This victory may have been significant, but the war was far from over. The alien general would not take this loss lightly. They had struck a blow, but how much longer could humanity hold out? The odds were stacked against them, but Arya knew one thing for certain. Humanity had something the aliens could never understand: the will to endure. Arya's thoughts are interrupted by a loud noise overhead. Looking up, she sees the unmistakable shape of an alien dropship descending through the smoky sky. It's only a matter of time before the next wave of attackers arrives. But this time they would face something far different: humanity's true strength. Humans may not have natural armor, but we don't need it. What we have is the ability to adapt, to heal, and to fight. The aliens think they've won, but they don't understand what we're capable of. And they're about to find out. The alien general thought he had won. He watched from his command ship as humanity's last Forces scattered in the wake of the onslaught. But he had underestimated something far more dangerous than their weapons, far more terrifying than their tactics. He had underestimated the human spirit. On the ground, beneath the smoldering wreckage of the alien beast, Captain Aria Rourke wiped the sweat from her brow. The battle had been brutal, but their small squad had survived and they had done the impossible. They had taken down the alien warlord's most powerful creature, but the victory tasted bitter. Around her, the rest of the team stood exhausted, but alive. Sergeant Carter, still panting from the fight, approached her. His helmet was cracked, blood staining the edge of his jaw. "We did it, Captain. We actually did it. But how long can we keep doing this?" Aria stared out into the horizon, the sky thick with smoke. The enemy forces were relentless. Despite the victory, the larger war was still unfolding, and humanity was losing ground. She knew that this small win would only delay the inevitable unless they could somehow turn the tide in their favor. But she also knew one thing. The aliens didn't understand the true power of humanity. What the aliens don't realize, Aria said more to herself than anyone else, is that we don't need armor to survive. We don't even need the best weapons. We have something far more powerful than they could ever comprehend. The alien forces believed themselves to be superior in every way. Bigger, stronger, faster, technologically advanced. But they had missed something crucial. Humanity's greatest strength wasn't in its size or in its weaponry or in any physical trait. Humanity's strength lay in its ability to adapt and persevere. It was an innate quality, part of their very DNA. A gift they didn't even fully understand yet. While the alien forces were powerful, they were also predictable. They followed their strategies with a strict adherence to their designs. Humanity, on the other hand, had learned to evolve, to adapt, and to outthink the enemy at every turn. It wasn't about brute force. It was about ingenuity, resilience, and the drive to survive at all costs. Back at the command center, far from the battle, the human scientists were hard at work. They had been studying the battle data for weeks, trying to understand how humanity was able to survive against an overwhelming force. Dr. Jameson, the lead scientist, paced back and forth in the lab, reviewing the latest findings. His face was drawn, weary from lack of sleep. Yet his eyes were alight with a sense of urgency. "It's not just coincidence," he muttered to himself. "There's something in our biology, something unique that's giving us an edge." A young assistant, barely out of her teens, turned to him with a mix of confusion and curiosity. "But Dr. Jameson, we've been over this. How could it be biological? The aliens are bigger, stronger, and their tech is far superior." Dr. Jameson shook his head. "It's not their size, it's not their tech, it's us. Human biology it's not what we thought it was. We've been underestimating ourselves." He stared at the data streaming across his screen. Each line, of code a revelation. "Our bodies are adapting at a rate we couldn't have imagined. We're healing faster, becoming stronger with every battle. It's like we were built for this." What Dr. Jameson had discovered was nothing short of groundbreaking. Human bodies weren't just surviving. They were evolving in response to the threat. They were getting stronger, more resilient with every fight. In short, humans weren't just adapting to their environment. They were evolving faster than ever before, and the more they fought, the more formidable they became. Aria, back on the battlefield, felt the same shift. She didn't know about the research back in the lab, but she could feel it in her bones. Every injury she sustained healed faster. Every time she pushed herself to her limit, she found new reserves of strength. It wasn't just physical, it was mental too. She could focus longer, think clearer, anticipate the enemy's next move, with an almost eerie precision. And it wasn't just her. Her squad mates had experienced the same phenomena. They were no longer just soldiers. They were fighters, born to survive and adapt, almost as if they had been genetically designed for it. Back in the command center, Dr. Jameson gathered the remaining scientists. They huddled around a table, the latest results displayed on the screen. "This is it, we've found the key," he said, his voice thick with anticipation. The room was silent as they all absorbed the information. The implications were massive. They hadn't just uncovered a new ability. They had found the very reason why humanity could face down the impossible. Humans are practically indestructible, not because of armor or technology, but because of how we're built. As the scientists continued their research, a new wave of alien ships was detected, descending rapidly from the sky. Arya and her team, still regrouping, prepared for another onslaught. But this time, they were ready for something more than just physical combat. They were about to confront the true power of the human body and mind, and they would use this new knowledge to turn the tide of the war. A new wave of alien ships descended like a swarm of locusts. The sky darkened and the ground trembled with the force of their landing. Captain Arya Rourke's hand gripped the weapon tighter, the knowledge of humanity's growing power coursing through her veins. She could feel the change. The fight for survival had transformed into something far greater, humanity's rise to power. But the aliens didn't know that yet. Arya stood with her back against the remains of an old collapsed skyscraper. The air crackled with the distant hum of alien technology as the dropships hovered above them. Their weapons glowed, charging up for another deadly bombardment. The alien general had sent reinforcements, but this time, they would face something different. They would face humanity's true strength. The battlefield was eerily quiet for a moment, the only sound being the heavy breathing of her squad. Each one of them had felt the change, the surge of energy, the way their bodies adapted faster to the enemy's attacks. No longer did they feel like prey. They felt empowered, and they were ready to show the aliens exactly what they were up against. Arya glanced at Sergeant Carter, who was checking his gear. His face was tired but resolute. "You ready for round 2?" he asked, offering her a half grin. She nodded, though her mind was elsewhere. The data Dr. Jameson's team had uncovered kept echoing in her mind. Humanity's genetic potential had been unlocked. But what did that mean? How far would it go? Could they truly win this war by simply outlasting the aliens? The stakes were rising, but so was their chance for victory. The change wasn't just physical. It wasn't just the speed at which their wounds healed or the strength in their limbs. It was something far deeper. The human mind was evolving as well. Cognitive processing, reflex speed, and problem-solving abilities. Each battle had forced their brains to adapt at a rate that defied any known precedent. As the aliens advanced, Arya felt a strange calm wash over her. The same sense of panic that had once taken over in moments of peril was gone. It had been replaced by a clarity of thought, an instinctual drive to act in ways she never imagined possible. Her body, her mind, they were in sync, more than ever before. Her squad was scattered, taking cover behind the wreckage, but they moved with a synchronicity that was impossible to miss. They were no longer a ragtag group of survivors. They were becoming a force to be reckoned with. Their bodies had adapted, their minds had sharpened, and now it was time to take the fight to the aliens. High above, the alien general watched through his command ship's massive viewport. His eyes narrowed as he observed the humans below. His initial surprise had faded into frustration. The humans were adapting too quickly, too effectively. The reports from his scouts were clear. These humans were far more resilient than anything he had expected. They had taken down his most powerful creature. How? Why? He had never expected them to rise above their primitive origins, but there was something deeply unsettling about how quickly they were evolving. It was like they were designed for this war, as if their very biology was made to counter him. He clenched his fists. He would not be outmatched. "I want a full-scale attack," he commanded coldly, his voice carrying through the corridors of his ship. "Bring in everything. These humans need to be crushed before they become a real threat." The alien general was not alone in his confusion. The rest of his forces had begun to notice the change in their human enemies as well. Reports came in from various fronts. The humans were no longer running. They weren't just surviving. They were fighting back with an intensity that no one had predicted. It wasn't the usual chaos of a desperate, defeated force. This was something new. Humanity's evolution had reached a critical point. No longer just surviving, they were now actively challenging the alien invaders. Their enemies, who once thought them fragile, now faced a foe whose resolve was matched only by their growing power. Back on the ground, the first alien attack was launched. Massive weapons fired from the sky, scorching the earth as they sought to obliterate anything in their path. But Arya was ready. She darted out from behind cover and took aim. Her reflexes were quicker, sharper than they had ever been. Her eyes tracked the alien craft in midair, calculating its trajectory before pulling the trigger. The shot was perfect, a precise hit that disabled the alien ship's engines. It plummeted from the sky, crashing with a thunderous boom. Her squad moved swiftly in tandem, taking down another alien ship with ease. They communicated in bursts, quick and efficient like a well-oiled machine. The aliens were struggling to adapt to the speed and coordination of their enemies. But the humans were no longer the underdogs. Sergeant Carter radioed in. "Captain, we've got more incoming, but these ships aren't like the others. Bigger, faster." Arya's eyes scanned the horizon as she saw the new threat, alien ships that outpaced anything she had faced before. They were massive, sleek, and dangerous. But Arya wasn't afraid. She had seen this before. The aliens always brought something new, always adapted. Now it was her turn. The new alien ships descended with terrifying speed. Arya could feel the tension rise. This was no longer a fight for survival. It was a fight to dominate. And with the evolution of humanity's strength, there was no turning back. The battle was just beginning, but it was now on human terms. What would the aliens do when they realized the full potential of their human enemies? The ground quaked beneath Arya's boots as the new alien ships descended. A loud, chilling hum reverberated through the air. They were unlike anything the humans had ever faced, and for the first time since the invasion began, Arya felt something new. Fear. But this fear wasn't born from weakness. It was born from the awareness that the aliens were now facing an adversary they couldn't predict. Arya stood at the edge of the battlefield, her eyes trained on the approaching alien ships. The sleek, dark vessels cut through the air like predators hunting their prey. They were fast, faster than anything the humans had ever faced, and they were equipped with weapons that made Arya's pulse quicken. The sky was filled with these ominous behemoths, their black hulls reflecting the blood-red light of the distant explosions below. Her squad was already in position, taking cover behind the wreckage of a shattered building. They were prepared, but even the most seasoned soldiers couldn't help but feel the weight of this new threat. These alien ships were massive, each one carrying firepower capable of leveling entire cities, and yet, humanity was no longer a fragile underdog. They were evolving. "Stay focused," Arya said, her voice cutting through the tension. "We've faced worse and come out alive. Trust in our ability to adapt." Sergeant Carter, his face set and grim, determination nodded. "You're right, we've got this. Let's show them what we're made of." But even as he spoke, the alien ships fired. Massive beams of energy shot from their hulls, carving deep into the earth, sending shockwaves through the ground. The ground beneath them trembled as the blast radius of the first wave destroyed everything in its path. Arya's eyes narrowed. It was as if the aliens had learned something too. They were adapting faster than she expected. The alien ships' weapons were unlike anything the humans had encountered. The energy beams were so powerful that they seemed to tear apart the very fabric of reality around them. Arya could see it. The aliens weren't just aiming at their forces. They were targeting the very foundation of human resistance. The cities, the bunkers, the technology humanity had relied on for so long. Everything was being obliterated. But humanity was adapting. Arya could feel the change deep within her. The evolutionary response that had begun in her body during the first battles was intensifying. Her senses were sharper, her thoughts clearer, and her body, it was faster, stronger. But she knew that wasn't enough. The aliens were evolving too, and if humanity didn't find a way to keep pace, they would be crushed. In the distant command Center Dr. Jameson and his team worked tirelessly to understand the evolution happening within the human soldiers. They had noticed the change in the data, the unprecedented speed with which humanity was adapting. But now they were faced with a new challenge. How could they harness this evolution to turn the tide of war? "We need to accelerate the process," Dr. Jameson said, his voice urgent. He was speaking to a small group of scientists, all of whom were equally aware of the stakes. "The aliens are evolving faster than we anticipated. If we don't push humanity's evolution to the next level, we'll be wiped out." "But how?" one of the scientists asked, glancing at the screens showing real-time battlefield data. "The changes are happening naturally. How can we make it happen faster?" Dr. Jameson's eyes gleamed with a new determination. "We've already unlocked the key to human adaptability. We need to enhance it." The idea was both terrifying and exhilarating. Dr. Jameson was suggesting something that could alter the course of the war, something that could push human evolution into overdrive. He wasn't talking about artificial enhancements or crude technology. No, this was something more radical. He wanted to tap into humanity's untapped genetic potential, something deep within their DNA that had never been fully understood. The question now was whether they could do it. Could they unlock humanity's true power before the alien forces overran them? The clock was ticking, and every moment mattered. Back on the front lines, the aliens continued their relentless assault. Arya moved with practiced precision, darting between cover and firing at the incoming enemy ships. She could feel the power coursing through her veins, the surge of energy that was now a permanent part of her. Every action was faster, more instinctive. Her mind had become a weapon as much as her gun. "Target locked," Carter shouted, his voice cutting through the chaos. His rifle's barrel glowed with energy as he fired a precise shot at one of the alien ships. It spiraled out of control, crashing into the ground in a ball of fire. The first victory in this new phase of battle. But even as the ship exploded, more ships were coming, and they were bringing reinforcements. "More incoming," Arya said, her voice steady despite the mounting tension. "They won't stop. We need to hit them where it hurts." The new alien ships weren't just equipped with firepower. They were faster, more maneuverable. And they had a new trick. Arya's squad was struggling to keep up. The aliens were hitting them from every angle, forcing the humans into defensive positions. But Arya felt something shift. Her squad's instinctive reactions were becoming second nature. And just like that, the human edge was sharper than ever. The aliens were relentless, but they weren't prepared for the sheer force of will that humanity was capable of. The human mind and body, now honed to a razor's edge, acted with the precision of a master strategist. Every strike, every movement, was calculated. The more the humans fought, the more they became the weapons they used. And in that evolution, they were no longer fighting for survival. They were fighting to win. Dr. Jameson's team was on the verge of unlocking the full potential of humanity's adaptive evolution. The question was, would they succeed in time to stop the alien onslaught? The battle was escalating to new heights, and the aliens were no longer just invaders. They were a threat that could be defeated, but only if humanity could fully harness their newfound abilities. The sky shattered with explosions. Arya's heart pounded in her chest, but her mind remained calm. This wasn't just another battle. This was the point of no return. As the alien ships closed in, she could feel the tide of change surge through her. The evolution of humanity's potential wasn't a theory anymore. It was their weapon. But even as they fought back, the real battle had just begun. Arya crouched, behind the remains of a collapsed building, her weapon raised, eyes locked on the alien forces descending from above. The alien ships hovered like monstrous predators, their weapons crackling with deadly energy. The battle had raged on for hours, and Arya was no longer just a soldier in a war. She was something else, something more. The energy from the alien bombardment rained down on the battlefield, tearing up the earth and vaporizing everything in its path. Yet despite the sheer devastation, Arya felt an eerie calm settle over her. The change that had begun in her, this newfound strength, had become second nature. The thought of survival was replaced with the thought of victory. "We need to push forward," Sergeant Carter said, his voice cutting through the chaos. "We can't let them get comfortable." Arya gave him a nod. The squad moved in sync, darting between the wreckage and firing at the incoming ships. They had already downed several alien vessels, but there were too many. The alien onslaught didn't stop, and every second brought more of them. Arya's mind raced, calculating their next move. They needed to find the heart of the alien force, the command ship. But to do that, they needed to fight their way through the chaos. The humans weren't just surviving anymore. They were actively reshaping the battlefield. Despite the growing strength of the human soldiers, the alien forces weren't going to fall easily. Arya had noticed the shift in the enemy's tactics. They had begun to adapt as well, evolving their strategies to counter humanity's advances. The alien ships were faster, their shields stronger, and their weaponry more precise. The humans were no longer just fighting for their lives, they were fighting for the very future of Earth. But humanity had one key advantage: resilience. The aliens could evolve, but they couldn't match the sheer will of humanity to survive. No matter how powerful the enemy seemed, they would never have the relentless determination that burned in the hearts of the human soldiers. Arya could feel the power surge through her again. The energy in the air, the heightened senses. Humanity was not just evolving physically anymore. Their minds, their souls, were changing. There was something deeper at play here. The evolutionary leap wasn't just about strength or speed. It was about purpose. Back in the underground research facility, Dr. Jameson paced nervously. His hands trembled as he reviewed the data. The experiment they had started was far more successful than he had ever expected. Humanity was no longer just adapting. They were pushing past their limitations, but there was a danger in that. What if this evolution went too far? What if it could not be controlled? "How much further can we push them?" Dr. Jameson asked, his voice hoarse with uncertainty. "Are we on the edge of something we don't understand?" One of the scientists, Dr. Harper, glanced up from her console, eyes filled with concern. "We don't know. The data suggests that humanity is reaching the limits of what we thought was possible. But if we push them too far, there could be consequences." Dr. Jameson stopped pacing, his gaze fixed on the screens. The experiment had accelerated, and they were now seeing results that no one could have predicted. But every breakthrough carried its own risks. Could they push humanity's evolution without losing control of it? Could they maintain the delicate balance between enhancement and destruction? As Dr. Jameson's concerns mounted, Arya and her squad continued to fight, unaware of the experiments that were happening far beneath the surface. The battle above ground was a reflection of the battle within humanity itself, the struggle to rise above their origins, to push past their limits, and to find out just how far their potential could reach. But there was something else at play here, something that Arya couldn't yet see. The aliens weren't just a threat to Earth. They were a catalyst, a force that had unknowingly triggered something deep within the human genome. They had accelerated the rise of a new humanity, one that could outsmart, outfight, and outlast them. As Arya moved forward, she felt the undeniable truth. The aliens were not the real enemy anymore. Humanity's future, what they could become, was the true battlefield. Arya's squad was advancing now, having cut through waves of alien ships. The battle was no longer about simple survival. It had become a war of strategy, of precision, and of calculated strikes. The aliens were no longer invincible. They were vulnerable. "Captain, we've located their command ship," Carter reported, his voice crackling through the comms. Arya's heart skipped a beat. The command ship was the key to ending this war. If they could take it down, they would cripple the alien forces. But getting to it would mean facing the most heavily guarded part of their fleet. "We move now," Arya said, her voice steady. "This is our chance." The humans were no longer fighting to survive. They were fighting to win. The power that had been unlocked within them, both physical and mental, had changed the course of the war. They were no longer the underdogs. They were the aggressors. But as they pushed forward, one question loomed larger than any other. What would happen to humanity once they had fully unlocked their potential? The human squad was preparing to face the alien command ship. But what they didn't know was that their evolution wasn't just about survival. It was about becoming something else. Something new. Would they have the strength to control this change, or would it spiral beyond their control? The battle to save humanity was about to take a new turn, and it would challenge everything they thought they knew about themselves. The explosive battlefield scene creates immediate tension and urgency, keeping the audience engaged. The focus on humanity's growing power and resilience continues, with deeper reflections on what that means for the future. Dr. Jameson's dilemma. The scientist's internal struggle about pushing humanity's evolution adds a layer of complexity to the story, raising the stakes for the audience. The humans are now on the offensive, showing their growth and strength as they move closer to the alien command ship. The tease of what will happen once humanity's full potential is unlocked sets up an exciting next chapter, making the audience eager to see the consequences. This chapter keeps the tension high while further developing humanity's transformation, both physically and mentally, setting the stage for the next critical phase of the story. The alien command ship loomed large on the horizon, an imposing, dark behemoth, surrounded by an army of soldiers and ships. But Arya's focus wasn't on the ships anymore. It wasn't even on the enemy forces. Her focus was on one singular, terrifying thought. The power humanity had unlocked could save them, or destroy them all. Arya stood at the front of her squad, staring up at the massive alien vessel in the distance. The air was thick with smoke and the acrid stench of burning metal. Every breath felt heavier than the last as the full scope of what they were about to face set in. "We move now, or we don't move at all," Arya said, her voice low and commanding. Her hand tightened around her weapon, and she could feel the familiar surge of energy coursing through her veins. Sergeant Carter, his face smeared with soot and blood, gave her a determined nod. "We've got this, Captain. Let's make them regret ever coming here." With a grim smile, Arya turned her gaze toward the alien command ship. It hovered like a dark storm cloud, its enormous hull glistening under the red sun. The ship was heavily guarded, surrounded by waves of alien fighters and heavily armored soldiers. There was no doubt in Arya's mind. This was their last chance to end the war. But as they prepared to move out, Arya couldn't shake the feeling that they weren't just fighting for Earth anymore. They were fighting to control something much bigger, their own future. The humans had fought back, yes, but now they were about to step into the heart of the alien force. Their weapons had grown stronger, their minds sharper, and their bodies faster. But Arya knew there was a limit to how far they could push. This wasn't just about physical strength. Humanity was facing something far more dangerous than the aliens' weapons, the unknown. In the underground labs, Dr. Jameson was reviewing the latest results from the Human Evolution Project. The data was staggering. The soldiers weren't just adapting to the aliens' attacks. They were evolving beyond anything he had expected. But there was a growing concern within him. How much longer could they continue to enhance humanity before the very foundation of their being began to crack? As he stared at the results, he muttered under his breath, "We're on the edge of something monumental, but we may not be able to control it." Above the battlefield, the skies were filled with alien ships, their sleek forms twisting through the air in perfect harmony. Their weaponry was more precise than ever, sending beams of destructive energy straight toward the human lines. Yet, despite the overwhelming odds, the human soldiers pressed on. Arya's squad moved quickly, darting from cover to cover, their every step timed to perfection. The alien ships above were formidable, but Arya's instincts were sharper now than ever. The energy inside her surged, propelling her forward with a speed and precision that felt almost unnatural. "We're almost there," Carter shouted over the comms, his voice filled with both anticipation and caution. The command ship is just ahead. The moment they crossed the final stretch of open ground, all hell broke loose. Alien soldiers emerged from hidden positions, their weapons trained on the advancing humans. But Arya didn't hesitate. She charged forward, firing her weapon with calculated precision, cutting down anything that dared to stand in her way. The alien forces, caught off guard by the speed and power of the human assault, faltered for a moment. But that moment was all Arya and her squad needed. They pressed forward with relentless fury, their every movement a testament to the evolution they had undergone. The evolution of humanity wasn't just about fighting better or surviving longer. It was about becoming something else entirely. Arya felt the change as if it were woven into the very fabric of her being. She wasn't just a soldier anymore. She was a part of something greater, a force that could reshape the future. And with every alien ship that fell, every soldier they downed, the humanity that was fighting so fiercely wasn't just defending its home. It was fighting for the right to control its own destiny. They were close now. The alien command ship loomed just ahead, its shields flashing as they intercepted the fire from Arya's squad. The command ship was surrounded by its most elite forces, but the humans were no longer intimidated. They had evolved, and the thought of failure was no longer part of their lexicon. Arya's heart pounded as she sprinted toward the ship, her rifle blazing with fire. Her squad followed, a seamless force of will cutting down enemies with ease. The closer they got to the command ship, the more intense the battle became, but Arya felt something inside her, a calm that came from understanding. This was their moment. As they reached the base of the command ship, Arya signaled for them to stop. The ship was heavily armored, but it had one weakness: its engines. If they could disable them, they could cripple the ship and bring the entire fleet to a standstill. The problem? The engines were located deep within the ship, surrounded by dozens of heavily armed aliens. "We take the engines, we take the war," Arya said, her voice unwavering. The plan was set in motion, and the human squad infiltrated the command ship's lower levels. The alien soldiers defending the ship fought with desperation, but it was no use. The humans were too fast, too strong, and too determined. They moved with the precision of a well-oiled machine, each soldier understanding their role and executing it flawlessly. As they neared the core of the ship, Arya felt a surge of energy unlike anything she had ever experienced. The alien resistance was fierce, but it was no match for the overwhelming power humanity had unlocked. With each step forward, humanity's destiny became clearer. They were no longer fighting just to survive. They were fighting to define their future. With one final push, Arya and her squad breached the engine room. The alien forces inside were fierce, but in that moment, humanity's strength was undeniable. Arya set the charge on the engines, signaling her squad to retreat. The countdown began. As they made their way back to the surface, the ship erupted behind them, the force of the explosion shaking the very ground beneath their feet. The alien command ship was no more. But the battle wasn't over yet. The alien command ship had been destroyed, and the humans had claimed their victory. But the true consequences of their evolution were just beginning to unfold. Humanity had unlocked an unimaginable power, but would they be able to control it? Or would they fall victim to their own creation? The fate of the human race now rested on one critical decision: how far were they willing to go to secure their future?